In this video, we will see what is a method and how to use a method in Java. Methods are also called functions in other languages. So if I use function or method, they can be used interchangeably. Okay, but in Java, this method is preferred, or method keyword is preferred. So first of all, what is a method? A method is a piece of code which executes some logic, and you can wrap this method with a name, and you can call this method again and again whenever you want to use it. Now, how to use a method? First of all, for your information, this main is also a method which every Java program has. This I have told you in the initial videos, right? So in this same method, this is, Java is expecting us to provide, and our method name should not be main, because there should be only one main method in any Java program. Okay, but other than main and reserved name in Java, you can define any name to a method. So first of all, let's see what is the basic syntax of a method. So we just give, first of all, the access specifier to our method, which is public, like this, and then static. So don't worry about these public and static, because we will see these keywords in detail in the later videos whenever we will see how to use classes. But then starts this return value, which is the part of the method, and then comes the name of the method. For example, my first method. Okay, and then comes these brackets. In these brackets we can pass some parameter, but for the first time, because it's an introduction, I just want to leave them empty. They can be left empty, or you can pass parameters like int a, something like this in here. But for now, for simplicity, I will leave them blank. So this is the simplest kind of method. So what are these? First of all, public static is called the access specifier, and public keyword tells your class or Java that it's accessible anywhere inside your class. Okay, and then void is the return type. Right now we are not returning anything, that's why we write here void, but I will show you in the further videos how to return value using method, and in that we will see more options other than void with this method. And then comes the method name, and in these circular brackets or round brackets comes the argument. For now we are not passing any argument, and then in these curly braces comes your statement. For example, we want to execute or we want to print some message. So system dot out dot print line, and we just write hello YouTube. Okay, and this is the basic syntax or code which you want to write, or which you want to execute using this method. Now you can call this method in your main method here, and you don't need to execute or print anything. You can just call this method as it is. You just need to copy the name of the method like this, and then provide these two round brackets. Okay, and then when you run the program, it will print hello YouTube. So we are not, if you notice, we are not directly printing in our main method hello YouTube, but we are calling the function with a function name, and then it prints hello YouTube. Okay. And the biggest advantage of using this function or method is it will make your code really readable and really concise, and it will make your code look good, okay, and understandable. So for example, you want to call this method again and again inside your function, you can call it and you don't need to write any further code, right? It will print hello YouTube 5 times. So you can call a method again and again inside your main method, and without rewriting the same code again and again. So the basic rule of thumb is, when you decide to write a method, whenever you have the code which is, which you want to write again and again, then you may wrap it inside a method, and this will help you to reduce the lines of code which will you write. Okay, for example, this code contains 5 lines. Okay, so, and we don't want to write these 5 lines again and again, because for example, this method contains 5 lines, and if we have to do it without the method, we have to do it, just like this, and we want to call it, if once again these 5 lines of code again in our main method, then we need to write it something like this and this, and this will make your code really lengthy, and whenever your code becomes really lengthy, it will be hard to read your code. Okay, and what this method is doing, it's just making your code with, execute with just single line of code. Okay, so this is the real advantage of method, and you should give really logical name to your method so that it's understandable, and then any other person, if he is reading your code, he will be able to understand your code also. Now in this video we will see some more properties we can add to a method. One I'm going to show you is called passing parameters to the method, and other is called the returning values from a method. So this was the simple method I have shown you in the last video. Now it doesn't solve much of the purpose, because every time it's not flexible, it's only printing hello YouTube every time. Now to make it more flexible, we can add an argument to this function we have made in the last video. So the declaration remains same. Public static is the access specifier, void is the return value. Void means we are returning no value, and the name of our function is this one, and in these round brackets we will pass our parameter in just a moment, and in here in these curly braces we write our statement. So for example, we want to greet some persons based upon their names. So we can pass an argument to this function like this. So we will pass the name in the form of string variable. So we just give the data type first, and then we give the value or a variable name which we want to pass. So we can say name. Okay, so this kind of declaration inside your round bracket in the function is called the parameter passing. Okay, and this parameter name, which is a string, you can use inside your function. So if you want to say hello or whatever name is passed to the function, then it will print that name. So whenever we call this function, say hello to the main method, for example, we call the name John, then it will greet hello John. Okay, so I will run the program and it says hello John, and this function can be used to greet more than one function, for example John, Tom, or for example some other name, Mark for example, and it will greet all three names, hello John, hello Tom, and hello Mark. Okay, so this makes our function a little bit flexible in a way that we can use it according to our use. Okay, the other use of this function, we can use it to add, for example, with integer. So here you can pass any number of parameter. It's not necessary that you need to pass only one parameter. You can pass multiple parameters in here as in parameter, right? So how we can do this? We will declare one more function, for example public, this should be public static void because we are not returning anything. And now we will make a function called add, which we want to add two values in using this function. Okay, and in here we can pass multiple values, whatever number of values you want to add. For example, int a comma int b. For example, we want to add these two values and print the result. What we can do is we can just print these values by calling a plus b. So just write a plus b. Okay, and what this will do, whatever you pass as an argument here and here, it will add these two values and print on the terminal, right? So when I run this program, first of all I need to call this add function. I will delete this say hello from the main and I will call this add function, and for example I want to add two integers, and this is 100 and 201, for example I want to add, and I will run the program and it prints the result, which is 301 using this code. Okay, and now I want to add some more integers. For example, I want to add some values and some other values, and I can do it with the same function. So this makes your job really easy. Using a same function, you can add different values or you can perform different operations on different values, right? So it makes your code really readable and understandable at the same time. Now you can add more in parameters like int c, and you can add this parameter here, and in here you can add some more integer values like this. Okay, so it depends upon you how many parameters you want to pass to your function and it will give you the result. Okay, so it's totally dependent upon you. The only thing is you just need to give the data type and the variable which will hold these values. So indirectly, whenever you pass 100 as a first parameter, 100 is equal to 100 becomes a here and it goes here. Okay, so the value of a becomes 100 and value of b becomes 201 in this here, and value of c becomes 211 here. So they will be replaced and they will be called and the answer will be printed on the console. Okay, now to make it more flexible, this is called parameter passing, but we can only pass the values, and if we want to access the result using these parameter passing, we cannot access the result. So for example, we want to use this result 512 in our main function to do some other arithmetic operation. How we can use it? Okay, so it's using this function, it's not possible, right? But there is a way to do this, and the way to do this is by returning some value. So we will modify this add function a little. Right now it's returning void. Void means it's not returning anything. But when we want to use it inside our main function, when we want to use the result inside our main function, we can return integer value. Okay, and this return value will tell what kind of value you want to return from your function, and the same you will return from here. So just write return and just write a, it should be a plus b plus c. Okay, and in this way what you are basically doing is you are taking all the values which you pass from or in this function, and you are adding this and you are returning from this function. So let's take an example of this. So let's comment this system out for now, and right now what we are doing is we will just add the values we are passing, these three values, and we will return. And whenever a function return anything, you can store it in other variable but of the same type. So the data type of the returning value and the value in which you want to store the return value should be same. So this is integer and this is integer or int, right? And you can call this add function and paste it here. And what this basically do is this will add 100, or this will replace a as 100, b as 201, c as 211, and it will add these two values and it will return this sum, and you can store this sum in some other variable. Okay, and then you can print this value like this. So you can call sum and this will give you, or you can access this value inside your main function like this. So this is due to this, and if you want to do some other arithmetic operation on this sum, you can do it. For example, int result sum multiplied by, for example, 15 you want to do. You can do it like this, and this should be equal to, and you can call your sum like this, and you can just run the program and it will give you the multiplication of whatever sum you will get from the add function, adding these three numbers, and then you can do some arithmetic operations on the sum you get as a result, and you can multiply it by or whatever arithmetic operation you want to do, and you can store this result in another variable and you can use it. So in this way, the function or methods made it really easy to organize your code and make it really concise, really readable, really understandable, and it also makes your code prettier. So I hope you have understood the basic concept of passing parameters like these and returning values like these. Okay, in the same way you can make any logic using these functions. For example, multiplication, you can make a function to make multiplication, you can make a function to do divisions, you can add two numbers, you can subtract two numbers, or any complicated arithmetic or logical or anything you want to do, you can do it inside a function, and you can take arguments or parameters here and you can return the result so that you can use it in your main method. So I hope you have understood the basic concept of taking parameters or passing parameters to a method, what is recursion, and how we can use recursion in Java. So it's very common practice to call one method from another. For example, we create a static method add and we can call it inside our main method, right? So it's very common and everybody knows that. Java also allows to call a method from itself. Like, for example, you can call add inside your add method itself, and this type of programming is called a recursion, or this kind of programming when we call a method from itself is called recursion. And very basic, or we can say hello world program for recursion is factorial, for calculating factorial. So let's create a method to create a factorial for some number. Now those who don't know what is factorial or what is the meaning of factorial, I will just give you small gist of it. So a factorial is something like this. So whenever you want to create a factorial of some number, it's n, which is a number, multiplied by n minus 1 multiplied by n minus 2 until 1. So for example, we want to create, or when we want to calculate the factorial of 5, this is equal to 5 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 2 and multiplied by 1. Okay, so this is how we can calculate factorial. Now let's create a method to calculate the factorial of a number. So we can create this like this: public static, this should be public static, and this is going to return integer value, and we name our factorial as factorial itself, and it takes an integer int n, for example, or capital N as we are showing here, and then we will try to find some algorithm which calculates the factorial. So if the number is 0, if if we want to find the factorial of 0, it's 1, right? So if n is less than or equal to 1, then we will say that the answer, or we will return the answer as 1, right? So something like this, and here we will return 1. Okay, otherwise else we will return the value of n, which we will take it inside the bracket, then the value of n minus 1, right? So we can say indirectly that we want to calculate the factorial of n minus 1. Okay, so we will call the method itself and we will pass n minus 1 here. Okay, and then we will just close this, and here we just want to return, so I will just add return. So this type of calling, I'm calling factorial inside my factorial method itself. And what this basically is doing, if the value of n is less than 0 or less than or equal to 1, we will return 1, because factorial of 1 and 0 is 1. Otherwise we will return the multiplication of the n, which is 5. For example, if we want to calculate the factorial of 5, we will return 5 multiplied by factorial of 4, right? So once again it goes here, and now we want to calculate the factorial of 4, and then once again it goes 4 multiplied by factorial of 3. It goes once again here 3 and factorial of 2, and it goes once again factorial of 2 multiplied by factorial of 1, and factorial of 1 here. When n becomes 1 or 0, we will return 1. Okay, so indirectly it's calculating something like this. Okay, and whenever we want to print sys, for example sys o, and we will print this, and we will call factorial of 5, and let's see what's the answer. We will run the program, and it should be not, this should be out. Okay, and we will run the program, and the factorial of 5 is 120, which is true, right? In the same way, we can calculate the factorial of 4, and the answer will be 24, because 4 multiplied by 3 is 12, multiplied by 2 is 24, multiplied by 1 is 24 itself, right? And 24 multiplied by 5 is 120, which is the factorial of 5. So this way of calling method from itself is called recursion, and you can do it something like this. In this video, we will learn about method overloading. In the last videos, I have shown you how to use a method. Now, method overloading is same as declaring method, but the main thing is you can define different method with the same name. So two method you can define with the same name, which can perform two different different logic. So for example, I want to add two values, and I want to declare some method for this. So I will declare a function called public static, and it will return integer value, and I will name it as add. Okay, and what it's going to do is it's going to add two values. Okay, and it will return these two values, and then I will pass int a comma int b as the parameters, and I will return the sum of these two values, right? A plus b, and I can call it in here, right? But in real world programming, the situation may occur that you want to add not only two integer values, you may want to add two double values or decimal values, or you may want to add two strings, because plus you can be used as a concatenation operators also. So what you can do in Java is you can define the method, two different method with the same name, but for example different parameters and different values. Okay, so you can define add something like this, or you can define add something like this, and this is called method overloading. Whenever you define different method with the same name which performs some different logic, but they have the same name, they can perform mostly same logic, but data type you want to use them or parameter you want to pass them can be different. And whenever you will call these method, for example something like this. You want to add two values, you can just call add two integer 1 comma 36. So it will by default Java knows that whenever you pass two integers here in a method, you are calling this method because you are passing two integers. In the same way, whenever you pass two double values, for example 5 point something and 40 point something, then your Java program knows that you are calling this video. So Java is intelligent enough to deduce your method by your initialization of the method. In the same way, you can pass whenever you want to pass two names, for example hello and second parameter as world, then also it it can know that you are calling this function because it takes string values, and whenever you run the program it will give you different result. And so in the first case this add is calling this function, in the second case this add function is calling this function, and in the third case this add is calling this function. So the method overloading, or the basic logic of method overloading, is you can define different method with the same name to perform different operations, okay, but logically they will be doing some same kind of work. So this is method overloading in Java. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please rate, comment and subscribe, and bye for now.